Last time on the 76 Spitfire project, we got it running and driving. And got a list together of all the parts that we're gonna need and all of the items that need to be taken care of before that event that I'm taking the car to. So a few of the things we're gonna do in today's video are disassemble the suspension, clean up this frame rail, and do a little bit of paint work. So let's get into it on Rebuild Revival. Even though I'm still waiting on my parts to come in the mail, I'm gonna start on rebuilding the suspension by removing everything from the car. I also just went back to the shop where I got the car from and picked up the rack. I thought the rack was missing, but they just didn't give it to me when I picked the car up, as well as a new carpet kit. So we've got bushings for everything. We've got bushings for the sway bar. We've got bushings for lower and upper control arms. We've got the sway bar end links coming. The outer tie rods are new, and the ball joints on the upper control arm are new. So those we don't have to do, but everything else. So I'm gonna go around and hit everything with some PB Blaster first. When I have all of the suspension removed, I'm gonna paint it while it's out. All of the suspension is now removed from the driver and the passenger side, but I still want to take the rack out. It looks like the oil pan's leaking pretty bad. Also, the timing cover, they did the timing cover. It was probably leaking really bad, which is, you know, the front seal on the crank, the timing cover, all of that. So hopefully once we clean this up, it's not going to come back right away. All right, now let's go do the rear. So the rear suspension in this thing is kind of weird. It's got one leaf spring that goes all the way from this side to the other. So there's only one leaf spring in the back, and that's one of the main parts we want to remove because the car is sagging here in the back. So I've got a replacement leaf spring. So yeah, we're gonna remove some of this stuff, not all of it, because I don't wanna mess with the axles. And there you can see the leaf spring that goes all the way to the other side. Let's see, let's just rest on the axle. Yep. So it looks like there may be an access panel behind this trim piece. So this thing only has a couple of screws holding it in. I just noticed something that I didn't notice before. It looks like, is that from mice or something? I think so. Let's see what we find behind there. Mice. There we go. To remove the leaf spring assembly in one unit like I'm going to do, you need to remove all four of these studs. So you just use one of the nuts off of the other stud as a jam nut and then loosen the lower nut and it'll unscrew the stud. In the manual it says you can pull this clamp off, but maybe they updated this clamp type and it's going to come out with the spring. Let's see. All right, now we're going to wash the chassis, suspension, engine bay, a lot of stuff. So we're gonna get some before shots. The stuff I'll be using is this stuff I got at Home Depot. I've never tried it before, so we'll see how that is. Just the normal Gunk engine degreaser, some brake parts cleaner. I've got a few more of those, and then just a bunch of brushes, and of course my pressure washer. Okay, so it's the next day. Everything is nice and dry, and I cleaned up the big mess that I made. I'll go around to do a few before and afters. This is the driver rear before, nice and dirty. And here is after. Here's the passenger rear before and after. And then here is underneath the rear chassis before, and here is after. Here's the undercarriage in front under the engine before, and here is after. And here is the passenger wheel well before, and here is after. I know there's still some rusty bare metal, but we'll get into that later. Here is the driver wheel well before, nice and dirty. Here is after, huge transformation on this side. Even up here in the front of the engine. Here's the driver wheel well on the hood before, and here is after. Here's a quick shot of what the engine was before, not too dirty. But here is after, nice and clean. And here are all the suspension parts, boxes there, steering rack, and we're gonna be using the parts washer. This thing works okay. It's just a water-based degreaser that gets heated up. So it's not a really strong solvent, but it does work decently. All right, so now we're going to pressure wash the wheels because we're going to be painting them. The backside doesn't really matter too much, but here's what they look like before. Now I'll use my press to press out all of the original bushings out of the suspension parts. All right, so I've got all of the bushings removed from all of the control arms. So now we're gonna start wire wheeling everything, prepping it for primer. All right, here's all the suspension and steering components all cleaned up. So we've got, let's see, driver side, passenger side, sway bar, and then the steering rack. So now I'm gonna jump on cleaning this part of the frame up. I'm actually gonna lower the car a little bit because when you look from the top, that's kind of the stuff that I want to make sure I get covered. We'll get into some of this stuff right here as well. Let's get the wire wheels and we'll start prepping all of this stuff. All right, pretty much done with prepping this frame at this point. This is what you would pretty much see from the top. I mean, this thing sits very low. All the suspension is going to be bolted up right here. So I just wanted to clean this section up and paint it. So when you are looking down, that is all nice and yellow instead of rusty metal. I mean, I know there's a lot of other rusty stuff here. It's not going to be perfect, but yeah, at least this frame rail will be all nice and yellow. So we're done prepping that. Now I'm going to start prepping the wheels. I've already cleaned these like you've seen. So now I'm just going to hit them with a wire wheel. And we're just focusing on the front. I may hit the backside with some primer. The only reason I would hit the backside is because I don't want the rust to start forming back here and then coming through onto the front, like through these holes or here. So we'll see. I'm gonna prep both sides. All right, I'm just getting set up to start painting. I scuffed these with the red Scotch Brite with wax and grease remover because I actually left these overnight after wire wheeling them. They kind of got a little bit of surface rust. So now they're looking pretty good. I think that is good, ready for primer. And I'm about to start wrapping the wheels. I saw a guy wrap them in saran wrap and then just cut out the circle. So that's what I'm gonna try. So let's wipe them with the Prep All spray first. And then we'll try the plastic wrap. I wonder if I should take the wheel weight off. So this is a 1 ounce, 1.0. So we'll do that same thing to all of them. The plastic wrap that I got was Costco brand, and it seemed pretty sticky originally, but once I started wrapping it on the tire, it would not stick down into the bead. So I eventually scratched that idea. Yeah, it's like not sticking at all. Okay. Scratch that idea. The saran wrap did not work, at least the one that I got. So I picked up some of this stuff. It's for covering carpet. It's super, super sticky. So we're gonna try this. I think it'll stick to the tire better. So this stuff, as I mentioned, is super, super sticky. The plastic is also pretty thick, so it's very durable. I'm basically wrapping the whole wheel and tire and then tucking the edge into the bead, cutting out the circle where the wheel is, and then just tucking that edge into the bead even more, then trimming any extra off, covering the wheel with the blade. This one went pretty good. Now I'll just do the same thing to the back side. The plastic wasn't really sticking back here, but I think it's because I didn't wash the back of the tire as well as the front. Good. Not too bad. Let's see how they turn out. All right, guys, I think we are finally ready to start painting. So here is that area on the frame that we're gonna be painting. Obviously, everything else completely covered. I only wanna get this frame section. I'll probably kind of try and blend it in a little bit to this area, but only wanna do this frame section. I'll even get here from the inside a little bit because you will see some of this. So I want to hit all of that as well. And then here are the wheels, all prepped and ready for paint, and all of the suspension components. I think what I'm going to do on the rotors is put a little bit of grease. I haven't done that before. So this stuff is going to be black. Those are going to be silver, and then of course the frame rail is going to be yellow, but we're going to prime everything first. So let's get set up to start shooting some primer. So for getting into all of these like tight areas, I got this little cheap Harbor Freight. It's I think a detail or touch-up gun. I forget what they call it, but it's a lot smaller than the normal gun. Obviously it holds a lot less, but you could get into some of these areas a little bit easier. So I'm gonna try this out. I don't know, the tip on this is like less than 1. I think it's a 0.8, so I don't know how it's gonna shoot primer. We'll see. I did thin it out quite a bit, so let's see how this works with primer.
Okay, that's pretty good. I also just hit the back side of the wheels with some black Rust-Oleum primer that I had because the cover didn't really seal good against the tire, like right here. So I didn't want gray primer to get on the tires, so I just threw some black on it. And I'm not gonna paint these, it'll just stay black on the inside, and then we'll flip them over and paint them silver. All right, now we're gonna shoot the yellow. And I'm using this little gun again. It's just so much easier to get into all the areas, even for like the wheels and the other stuff. I want to get a better gun that is this small, but for now this one is going to work. And plus it's just the frame, wheels, and suspension, so it doesn't need to be perfect. Wow. This stuff is super thin. You gotta go on really light. It's starting to run right there. I wonder if I should wipe that. We're gonna have to do like, I don't know, 4 or 5 light coats. Okay, let's let that dry. So I was about to lay down the color on the wheels, and at the last second I remembered I also needed to do these hubcaps. So I washed them, I scuffed them, and then covered up the badges. I should have ordered new badges, but I didn't, so we'll just have to cover these up, and hopefully that looks okay. So now we're gonna hit it with primer, let that dry, and then we'll hit everything with the silver wheel color. All right, now we're going to shoot clear on the yellow frame and on the black suspension parts over there. I'm gonna use this gun again just so I can get into the tight areas, and hopefully it works good with the clear. It's coming out a little dry. All right, let's try this. There we go. There we go. All right, now let's do that on the rest of the frame. Looking good. All right, now we're going to clear all the suspension. We'll just start over here. I'm just going to do one coat on all this. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to throw the camera down and finish the rest of this stuff. Let's go one light coat. All right, so we've got 5 or 6 coat of yellow. It was just so thin. I was trying to get good coverage without any runs. I got a couple of runs in here, but I think I wiped them off and you can't really see them anymore. So we are good. I am excited to take all this off and see how it looks. And then I also just finished up with the wheels. These were single stage, metallic. I was trying to get something a little bit lighter than this. I don't know, it looks pretty cool, but it's definitely a lot darker than what it was. So we'll see. These are 2 coats, 1 or 2 coats of primer, and then 2 coats of the single stage metallic with a light mist at the very end. Hopefully that'll distribute that metal flake around. And then over here, we've got 1 or 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of black, and then 1 coat of clear. A nice big heavy coat of clear. So these are going to be super protected. I think this is going to look super cool. Gloss black against the yellow. I'll probably let all of this dry for a full day today and all day tomorrow while I start assembling the interior. So tomorrow is interior. So it's the next day after painting, so this stuff has been drying now for maybe 12 hours, a little bit more. I had some heaters running, baked it all night long, and now it's pretty early the next morning. As of right now, I have 4-ish days left to finish this car. So I need to reassemble everything, including the interior, all the suspension, obviously, and then buff the paint. And a couple more little odds and ends here and there, but that's pretty much it. So let's go check out the paint. So here is the frame rail. It matches okay. It's not great. I mean, this paint is, what is it, 40 years old? It's a 76, so 50 years old. So it's a little bit off. This paint was mixed off of the paint code, not a color match. So maybe that's what it looked like originally. I mean, it's not bad, and obviously it's just the frame. It's not like I painted the door. That would not work if it was the door, but it looks okay. Once we get suspension and everything back on here, you'll be looking at it from like this or taller, and it's not a big deal. I mean, the paint came out good. The color's just a little bit off. Not too bad though. Looks more like my lift than the car. And then here are the wheels. They actually lightened up a little bit now that they're dry and the light is shining on them. So I think these are gonna look really good actually. My tape job did pretty good. There's a tiny bit of paint on some of them, barely. And then I'll just put the wheel weights back on where I marked them, and then I'll wipe off that paint. Here is how the center cap will look on it. So these turned out really good, I think. And then I also untaped some of the stuff that I taped off, like the boots for the ball joint, and then all of the wheel studs I also taped off. And then one thing I did is I put grease on this rotor, and that worked out really well. So I did that on this one. On this one, I didn't grease. I kind of wanted to see how hard it is to remove the paint off the rotors if you don't prep them with anything. I was thinking maybe I could just let the brake pads scrape it off, but I don't know that it will. So I may try and get this off before. I don't know. I have to think about it. But everything else turned out really good. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut the video off here before it gets too long, but we still have a ton of stuff left to do on the Spitfire project. We need to reassemble the entire suspension, the interior, a bunch of other odds and ends, some cosmetic stuff like polishing the paint. So I've got a ton of work left to do before that car show, which is only in a couple of days. So let me know if you're liking the Spitfire content. I wasn't really sure about the car when I first got it, but it has grown on me. I do like the yellow. I like the classic British sports car feel of it. So let me know what you guys think. And if you are liking the Spitfire content, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you can see the future videos on it, and I'll see you all in the next video.